Hey, my name is Chris Colombo. I've been invited to Burn Down Podcast. I'm very excited to be here. Good conversation and a good cigar is probably the most fun you're going to have with your clothes on.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Burn Down. Today's guest, he is one of the biggest and most successful bookmakers associated with the Mafia. He is the son of Joe Colombo, one of the biggest crime bosses in New York. That is no other than Chris Colombo.
First of all, in your introduction, that 5-letter word you used, you can use it all you want. It just sounds ridiculous if you have knowledge.
It does. So
that's why
I'm here.
Actually, you know what? I do know what it means because I read it from an interview that you had posted about what it actually means.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like an Italian acronym of getting the French out of Italy, right?
Yes. It's five words that their abbreviation is MIFIA. Means get the French out of our country.
Wow.
And Italy.
Yeah, I remember that was a
great organization.
That was a previous interview. I think that you said that on. I just watched it the other day.
I read it. It might have been the interview.
My father originally said it on the Dick Cavett show. Now, it wouldn't be that bad of a name, but I don't think those people actually refer to themselves as that. So it's like a stigma against all of them.
Yeah, right. And when did it just kind of made its way over, and then people just started saying Mafia everywhere? They just started like...
It's like my case. They called it the Colombo Brothers Crew. I never committed a crime with my brother. They just threw him in. And it would be pretty tough to RICO. We had 26 counts together that were erroneous. It was thrown out the first day of trial. And when they brought me in for bail, they brought me in like Hannibal Lecter. You know, everything but the mask. And they asked the judge before he came out, the magistrate, this is why I didn't get bail, if they wanted a bulletproof thing in between me and them. They said no. And then into the trial, the first day, the 26 counts between me and my brother were thrown out. My girlfriend was named by Jerry Clemenza. I knew him my whole life. I knew his father. I love him. He was in my case, and we never. When I got to the bullpen, after they get bail, he was sitting there when they arrested us, waiting to go before the judge. I says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm on your case." He says, "You're kidding." I says, "What are they going to do?" He was much older than me. I says, "He says, I guess pinching you in my high chair at my house. My mother's been playing cards. It's illegal." To this date, I can't figure out how he ended up on the case. But that's an ethnic slur. Now, call it what you want to call it. Say what it is, but don't tarnish all Italians.
Right. So what would be the proper way to say it?
Crime belongs to who owns it. You do a crime, you're convicted, you own that crime. Even if you're not convicted, you own that crime. So the proper word is we do live in America, right? So to ethnically categorize someone just for your next case, and Italians are the only ethnic group, and not even terrorists, where the FBI and these task forces watch Italians waiting for them to commit a crime, not investigating a crime. So,
right, just because of who you're associated with and who your background and culture is.
They're just civilized world that have the conspiracy law.
Right.
Which is the toughest thing to prove, but it's the hardest thing to get out of, disprove.
Yeah.
You know? That's us in Great Britain, and it's only used in Great Britain for if there's a plot against the royal family.
Roger.
So to your point, it's a word that essentially is roping in all Italians into this, organized crime. Meanwhile, there could be organized crime in culture over here, or culture over here, anywhere. But they're just assuming,
because podcasts illegal, we're organized crime.
Right.
Fight crime where it is, don't manufacture it.
That's a good. I actually have never heard somebody explain it that way.
Yeah,
where it's like, hey, listen, just because I'm friends with this person, or just because I'm Italian, or just because I hang out with these people, doesn't mean that I'm committing a crime. And you're assuming that I'm committing a crime because of where I come from.
Right. And Italians don't help by watching The Sopranos and shows like that. They make us out to be buffoons. And until the RICO law, which they just herd up groups of people and they get felonies, Italians were the least the least number of crimes committed by any ethnic group.
At least.
And it's actually, you had said something in an interview you were talking about how where you have Sopranos and you have Goodfellas. Let's pick Goodfellas. Goodfellas is a great movie. I do enjoy the movie.
Yes.
It's a great movie, but they portray the fellas as like lying, cheating, terrible people. But you had said that in an interview that your father was a gentleman, never swore, never drank, never smoked, family-oriented.
Drank one day, VJ Day, because he was serving in Casablanca.
Okay.
With the Coast Guard in World War II.
But you had mentioned that big family man, morals, values, all of these things that are not
almost to a fault,
that aren't portrayed in the movies nowadays, right? Hollywood makes it out to be, they lie, they cheat, they steal, they have hookers left and right, and it's like that doesn't catch people's eyes. That's not really how it is.
No, family men, very good morals. If you take the organized crime element of what they call the Italian, whatever name you want to give it, ethics and morals, it may save this country.
Well, sure. Actually, yeah, because
it's the finest morals in the world.
Right. You had mentioned also you were saying that the family unit is broken. The church unit is broken. Our society,
the church has dropped the ball, but
the values, the morals are so it can be fixed. So what do you think caused that, and how do you think we fix that? Because we agree that the values of the traditional community and traditionalism are gone, and people don't have the same.
America has no sense of itself. It's almost become segregated with complaints. How do you fix it? Very simple. You can end it all with, like they do in England, 6 months. First of all, people get so involved with who's running for president. How could you serve your people if you're 2+ years into campaigning? Doesn't make sense. More than half your term. So if you're worried about getting elected, so if you cut that to 6 months and you limit the amount of lobbying, the money, put a cap on it for 2, and then you cut in the Senate and Congress how many terms they could have. Because the plight that your neighborhood is going through is representative of the people of that neighborhood or that particular district. So if a guy's in there 12 years, it becomes let's make a deal, and it doesn't matter who's who.
Right.
Give somebody a shot. Other people, a young guy coming up, or even an older guy, I don't care. But he knows what's going on in his neighborhood, has the pulse on it now.
That's a good point, because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in Congress that are 40, 50, 60 years in politics, and I go, that's a dictatorship. Basically, you're just saying the same person can be in politics for 60 plus years, making all the decisions for communities. It's like, to your point, no, let's get some fresh blood in there. Limit their, if the presidential term is limited to 2 terms, maximum of 8 years. There's been a few cases where there's a couple more than that, oddities, but if that's the maximum, why can somebody in Congress serve for 60 plus years? Right? Get some fresh blood in there.
How does somebody in their 60 plus years not answering to the calls of the people? They're supposed to be servants of the taxpayer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not benefits of what they take, but administrative costs.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast on legalized gambling. What was vice for me is commerce for them today. And they're robbing people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm educated because I see my son and his friends, which I've raised here. And the younger generation, I think the older people, when you hear them say, this generation is only what you give them. The music is only what people, the artists that they are feeling, the vibe out there. It's an expression. It's artistic. Like the Beatles were indicative of that era. Dion was indicative of that era. One of my guests on the podcast, Abe Hock, who was the manager of Led Zeppelin and the record label, they revolutionized music at the time, but that was indicative of what they were feeling and what was the temper of what was going on at the time. And rap music has become that too. Mm-hmm. So people block any change, but they refuse to have good values. For instance, when I hear people, I don't get along with my mother, I don't get along with my father. I said this multiple times, and what the message is. My father used to say, you can judge people how they treat their parents and their children. If they're not good to either or, what shot you got? Now, if my mother was a drug addict, and she wasn't, and a prostitute, I would still love her and take care of her.
Of course.
People, when they say that, I become estranged. Now, I don't know if the parents dropped the ball, but as you go through life, at 61, I didn't think the same as 25, but my morals became more.
Mm-hmm.
And I have young children out there, and to help with the gambling, because they are going to produce, now that it's legal, the people with the addictive gene can be destroyed.
Yeah, you obviously talk about your father a lot, how he instilled a lot of good morals, a lot of good sayings in you. And I remember I was watching you on one another interview, and I liked the one quote that your father told you. I think it was, "A bum can kill anybody, but a king can save somebody."
Any bum could kill a life. Only a king could save one. And he says, in this world, you could give anything back. If you rob, you could give the money back. If you have a fight, the people will heal. You say something nasty, you could say, I'm sorry, but when you take a life, you can't give that back. Well, if it comes to that point, and he did take lives in World War II, and some other things that I completely agree with. But he said, when you take a life, it's not the person that you're hurting, it's the people they love, their parents, their children. Maybe they're good to an elderly person. Even if they have a pet, that's who you're torturing also. So be pretty sure that what you're doing is the right thing.
So growing up,
By the way, you can light your cigar whenever you'd like.
Well, I'm not very interested in lighting the cigar because I'm going to tell you why. You sent me 2 cigars because the mail is slow. I advised you to do that because they'd probably get lost. But I test things out at the young at heart. They're more honest. Plus, my son snatches everything. I had to hide this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, smoking it. So I'm looking forward to it. You got a very good review because they like to smoke cigars, and they do a lot. They told me the leaf is very nice. The drawer is good.
Great.
It burns well. It has a nice taste. The ash, all the things you would think of a cigar that I haven't smoked in a while. So this is kind of like a first-time toast to you and your show.
Wow.
Well,
God bless.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your son for the kind words and for the great review of the cigar. We put a lot of hard work in it. We put 2 years of tasting and band design and box design and more tasting and more tasting and more tasting. So
going back to what you said about,
I compliment your cigar. The taste is magnificent.
beautiful. Well, thank you.
The drawer is good too.
We worked hard on it, so we're glad you're enjoying it. It means a lot to us.
Thank you for the cigars.
Appreciate it. So I usually like to say, with cigars, because what we do is we bring people together over cigars. Obviously, us right now, we're smoking cigars, getting to know each other. But just going back about the stuff about politics and Congress, I always like to say, in a cigar lounge, I'm sure you've been in one, political debate should be in a cigar lounge because the conversations and the back and forth debates go so much smoother and more level-headed than any other debate I've ever seen in my life. That's just my little take on it. Do I really want political debates in a cigar lounge? No. But if there ever have to be, I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, cigars promote conversation. You're relaxed.
Right. And I think that's I agree with Eric in that too. Is the way that cigars promote
It was a big dry.
the way that
Other cigars
cigars
would have killed me.
right. So the way that cigars promote friendly conversation, relaxed conversation, I think that debates
Well,
would
it's a
be
proven
less.
fact. It releases an endorphin that makes you relax.
Right.
Sure.
So I think that the conversation or debates in Eric's example, the political debates would be less heated and less combative, where it's just pointing the finger, saying this person is doing. Because I always hate when they say this person is doing something
political
wrong.
debate? What are they debating?
Yeah.
The truth?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what. Well,
Who looks
my
better?
point is I hate when I don't like when they
The problem with politics, there's politicians.
Yeah, they're crooked. Exactly.
All
But
of them.
I don't like when they point fingers at the other person, saying this person is doing X, Y, and Z bad, instead of just saying what are you going to do right.
Yeah.
I've always said they should have a debate where you can't point
Never mind
fingers
right or
at the
wrong.
other
How
person.
about do what you say?
Right. Well, that's
that's
what
the
I'm saying.
biggest thing.
Tell me what you're going to do, and then do it.
Sure.
Right. Like you had mentioned in another interview, where your word is your bond. Your word is is the strongest thing you can give, and you better keep
Yeah.
it. Right. So as a politician, if you tell me you're going to do something, you better effing do it. Don't tell me one thing, have all these people vote for you, and then do something completely different.
Yeah.
Do what you say you're going to do.
First of all, the way I educate people on bookmaking is now I could talk about it when it was illegal. And it's not a myth that we hurt people. We do not. And it's a lot of myth that we take advantage of people. It'd be like you poisoning your cigars.
Yeah.
Or giving somebody credit and they're going to buy more cigars, you're going to break their legs. I mean, they're not going to take your cigars anymore.
Yeah.
It's just common sense.
Right.
Matter of fact, in the neighborhoods, when a bookmaker stepped out of line with a customer, he got hit. Or told.
Now, how did you get into that whole world of bookmaking and
By
betting
accident.
again?
Yeah, I'm very.
How was that accident?
I'm very interested in it because I was a runner in college as well. I'm a big sports bettor. I've taken bets, but so I'm very interested in the bookmaking. How did you get into it? You said it was by accident. I heard that you kind of got into a little bit of a pinch.
If you were a runner, you knew you needed an introduction to an office, and you had players that wanted to play. Somebody introduced you to the office. You got a code, and you got a percentage which your guys came in with a red or black, usually the way it works, or a percentage of the gross, but that was usually small. And so you're familiar with how the bookmaking operation is. A guy like you comes to me, that was a dear friend of mine, had a sports bar, a young kid, and he wanted to get a sheet, but he was a degenerate gambler. I didn't know it. He ended up being most of his sheet. So I go down, I go with the best office I could find, and the biggest, the best lines. I did a little research, and I walked in, and I says, guy says, you're Joey's son? I says, yeah. He says, give him whatever he wants. So I go back, I give them the numbers, they call in. First week, they win 37 or 40,000. I'm not exactly sure, but it's in the ballpark.
Which was
money
is,
in 1980.
I was going to say, which is a lot of money back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but when you spread it over 20 numbers,
True.
it doesn't look like that much.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, I bring him the 40,000. The next week it was 20-something or maybe more. I bring it to him. The third week he loses. There's nowhere to be found. Monday goes by, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I go to his girlfriend's house. I remember it was 1980. I just bought my nephew a 280ZX with a stick shift. Beautiful car, coral with red interior. But it was the hot car at the time for young kids. Good kid at the time I raised him. So anyway. So I knock on the door. There he is. He wasn't expecting me. I says, pal, what are you doing? I paid you. Now you got to pay the office this money. You got nothing. He says, I thought I was dealing with the big guys that's supposed to help us out. These are the guys that cause the problems. They went big, and when it comes time to pay, they don't give you nothing. So I'm so aggravated, I'm about to lunge at him. I didn't put the car in gear. I didn't put the brake on, and I see it rolling, and it's going to the thing. So I go flying down, the T-tops off, I dive in, I hit the brakes, I'm sticking out looking ridiculous. I hit the T-pedal. Now I'm trying to figure out how to let off the brake, because, I'm built wide up here. I'm like stuck in this thing.
Legs hanging out the top.
I was always very wide. And long story short, I managed my way out. By that time, I see him running through the fields. Then he calls me on a Sunday. I go to his house. He's about to he had this ball and cap gun thing, and he was going to shoot himself with it. And I talked to him. So I go to the office, and I say, listen, I gambled. I didn't want to see him have a problem. It's okay. Yeah. We work out a deal. They says, you gave us all the money with whatever's profit. We could knock off, take off, whatever. But he does it again. And
how much was he down the second time?
What?
How much did he lose the second time?
Listen, the second time he does it again. We're out of the red. I paid it off, but I did $30,000 of my own money. And I became his partner the second or third time. I tell the story often. I can't exactly remember. Sometimes it comes to be better than others. But the second time was $90,000, but we had no red. You know that when they went in the office, gives you get back the red, and you split 50-50 at a half sheet.
Right.
So the next time, the whole scenario. So anyway, I'm watching. I called him from, that was in construction. I was going into the district council. I had to spend some time as a shop steward in the field, and I had a restaurant close to my house. Nice little Victorian mansion. So I was pretty busy all the time. So he made me a partner because at this point I was vested and I had to get my money back. So I figured I'd get it from the profits. Now I said, 90,000, look at this. I says, I give the office 45. We split 23. I got some money coming. He'll give me a little bit of that each time we win. This is terrific. Monday goes by. Tuesday goes by. Wednesday goes by. Same scenario with this ball and cap. And I says, all right. So I said, this time it's not that bad. We only owe 45,000. Not the whole 90. We got half. So at least I'm relieved. I says, he said, no, it's worse than that. Actually, the players won 30, and I lost 120. over to the spread out. Oh, God.
Wow.
So now I had to come up with the 30. Now I got it to pay the players, so there was still something, and you can't beat the players. It's wrong. It's beating the working man. It's horrendous.
So he was actually he said that he had X amount of players, but he had
players, but
he was betting on he was like 80% of
on a couple of his own numbers.
Yep.
Because I had limits and wouldn't let people go too far. He kept opening new people.
So he was opening new people, but he was playing the numbers.
Now, how do you deal with all that stress?
Growing.
Yeah, he's like, I got 8 or 9 guys.
2,500 accounts.
Right. He's like, I got 25 guys, but he's 20 of them. So,
right.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with all that stress, knowing you got to make all that up?
What?
How do you deal with all that stress, knowing that you're in the red, you're in the green, you got to make up this, you got to make up that. Where am I going to get it?
It's stressful.
Yeah, how do you deal with all that stress?
I didn't have any stress at all. I ran a great office.
Well, that's one way.
Over their head.
And you actually, so you started on a half sheet, which is unheard of. Most people start on a quarter sheet, right?
Yeah.
So you started right off the bat half sheet.
Yeah, well, when you show 20 guys with, it's a moneymaker. They're all suckers, You know gambling. You got your wise guys, with your smart guys that bankrupted me twice, and I went back on a half sheet when I had huge businesses.
Yep. Now you try not to get the wise guys.
I lost $1 million on a Sunday. I went back on a half sheet. That was my bankroll.
Yeah, you don't want to get the sharps. You stay away from the sharps. That's why nowadays.
I took the sharks too.
Yeah, nowadays they limit you. I mean, I've been limited on accounts too, where you go in and if you beat, and they actually don't do it by. A lot of people think that it's the amount of money.
The best is they don't tell you how much you take back on the dime line, which is 45 cents, which is ridiculous. And they'll say 180 next to the dime line with the picture. So they're telling you lay 180, so you're supposed to take back 170. You get like 133. They change it for your industry.
And a lot of people think they think that it has how much you're winning and how much you're losing. It has nothing to do with it. Is if you got a guy who's constantly beating the closing line or the line that you're getting, right? Because the lines will fluctuate because you're basically trying to move that.
The business is based on the line.
You're based on a line. You're trying to split the line where you get even money from both sides betting. This way you keep the vig, and that's it.
10%, 5% of your gross.
And that's what you're trying to do. But you got guys that are constantly beating the line that you're given, right? Like if you open the line at +3 and they take it, but then you have to adjust it down to 1.5, and they're constantly beating the line, that's a sharp, and you don't want those guys.
The closer your opening line is to your closing line, the stronger the office.
Yeah.
What I would do after they bankrupted me twice, what I would do is I would take a big bet for them, lay it off, and power move my line.
Okay.
And they were straight with me because I didn't lay off too much more, and I didn't force the line to go up. Sometimes they put false lines out there to buy it back.
Yeah.
Well, in baseball, you had the kosher boys. You had Z, who dominated. I think they found $500 million in his box in Vegas. I mean, he had beards. He had guys that did reverse sheets. He would give 25 and 50% for you to make bets when they won. The opposite. Not shop up to losing.
Were you always good with numbers like that? Were you, as a young kid, did you just get with it? Because I'm not good with numbers at all. I'm still not good with numbers. Sometimes it's a given talent.
Actually, I was diagnosed with a little dyslexia that I would invert them. So I worked so hard at it, I became good with everything but algebra.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it probably worked for you if you inverted it because a minus line is actually the better line, right? Yeah. So it actually probably worked in your favor.
Yeah, if I'm looking at the plus line?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. Look at the minus line is the favorite.
Less.
But
because when we got in touch with Andy originally when we were communicating, he was like, yeah, he learned from Mayor Lansky, and I was like, oh wow, I wonder how much did he learn from him? Is that something that's actually true?
Yeah, that's true by accident.
By accident.
So
now what does that mean by accident?
Well, let me finish the bookmaking story.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to ask a question about the bookmaking story. So
now I got to give 30 to the players that won, so there's still a business to pay this off.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give 45 to the office. Now that's money in 1980, and you're 21 years old or 20 years old. That's money.
For sure.
So I'm like shaking my head. So I go to the office and says, look, don't tell me. We already know. And we know it ain't you. He says, we'd like you to stay with us. He says, whoever you got on the phones, he's calling on all these numbers. We hear the voice. We don't hear yours. You've paid all the money. He says, listen, the 45 was profit. We know it was him. I said, it's more than that. We're going to wipe it out. We want you to stay with us. You have a talent for this, the way you handle things. You don't get out of order. That's what we like. You don't get too emotional, and you were loyal to the office. And you tried to cover for whoever you're dealing with. More than we would have. you're the type that we would like to do business with. And I continued until I opened my own office, and then I never looked back.
And you had a so I want to ask because you had moved. You started an office, right? And then I think you had a site, right? It was called wizardsports.com. Was that transitioning when, the internet age came through and everything was going online?
Yes,
right?
I had the wizardsports.com.
So 2 questions. First, what was the biggest bet that you took?
$1 million.
Single bet, $1 million.
$1 million.
Did you win or lose it?
Well, they laid $1 million to win $300,000. It's possibly the only time in my life I rooted for the Boston Red Sox. And the guy was doubling up because it's when the Yankees won 3 in a row and they just needed the 4th. So Boston really helped me back. And usually when you bet the series is 1 game left, you bet the other way to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Safe. Nobody did that. And it was bittersweet for me because I'd never like to see the Yankees to lose because I am a fan,
And so did he? Did you win that bet, or did he lose that bet?
Won that bet.
Nice.
So
okay, so that's the biggest one you took. What's the biggest bet you've placed?
Just disclose information.
It's tough to count.
We'll do it.
If you watch the podcast, I'm educating people how to bet.
Okay.
So when I bet,
because I don't know anything about bet. He's the betting guy. I don't gamble at all. I got no nothing.
The NFL uses 17 variables to set a line. You automatically give up 3 points for home field advantage. That's how much they scored, stuff like that.
Yep.
It's out. So when I place a bet, that line has got to be out 3 to 5 points. I want that edge against the line that's out there.
So if you're getting 3 to 5 points.
Not getting. So let's say
if it's adjusted.
I evaluate it's 5, or I think it should be the 2 the other way. 5 is the minimum I go in.
Okay.
Understand?
Yep.
That line's got to be 5 points out for me, and all my variables have to come together. And when I make a bet, I'm usually, for season, sometimes my best season was 17 for 18. Consistent.
So you're only...
Maybe once a week.
Right.
Sometimes only 3 times a year.
So that's actually a very, very good point too. Is a lot of rookie bettors bet too much. They're betting every game on a Sunday, and that's not the way to do it.
They're betting every game on a Sunday. As they're losing, they're trying to get out.
They're trying to double down. They're trying to chase, which is
400. They're going to try and bet 500.
It's not you
pick got out once.
Right. You pick 1 or 2 games that you feel you have the advantage, and that's it. And if you lose, on to the next week. You don't chase, because that's where the Monday Night Football came in, because everybody chases. That's why they close out on Tuesdays, because they left it Monday night, because everybody wants to chase.
To get them to call in.
And
then they give them a shot to get out.
They give them a shot to get out. That's why most books close on Tuesdays.
Well, I can't gamble. It's too much for me.
But that's a very good...
You don't handle stress well.
No, probably not. Definitely not with gambling, for sure.
All right.
When I used to go to Atlantic City and I'd lose $100 bucks.
No. So what is? I'm actually very interested to listen to your podcast. What's the podcast called? The one that
Taking Action with Chris Colombo.
Taking Action.
I subscribe to it on our YouTube channel already.
Oh, perfect.
I got to tell you, we have interesting guests. My life has taken me in many, many directions. It's not just about gambling. It's about a lot of philosophies for the younger kids. Things that I went through they shouldn't, and I can tell them this fine print that they should read before they do it.
Rule number 1, don't gamble with rent money.
So you obviously had an interesting way of growing up. So what were some vivid memories as a kid?
I had the best 9 years a human being could have. Before my father got shot, and then he suffered for 7 years.
What were some of the best memories you can remember?
Oh, forget about it. I live on this home now. It was a ranch.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we had 50 horses. I'm down to 2. Because I was the youngest brother, so I ended up cleaning up a lot, and that's not fun.
Did you race the horses? Were they race horses? Did you race them?
No. He liked to ride. He rode English and he rode Western.
Oh, very nice. Okay. So tell us some of the memories. I
remember
that you
saying you woke up sometimes and you'd see like vice presidents in your living room or Frank Sinatra.
That was in Brooklyn, not up here.
Oh, okay.
Brooklyn was more relaxed up here. It was more fun.
Sure, I can imagine. It's a little bit less stressful. So you really had like Frank Sinatra and Frankie Valli all in your living room when you wake up as a kid? I mean, I can't imagine.
Frankie Valli actually took off when my father was in the hospital. He took him getting shot so bad, took off his tours for 3 months and came to the hospital every day and sat with him. So did Sammy Davis. Frank Sinatra went into depression because he was a manic depressant and retired and then came back.
Wow.
Because he couldn't do the second show that my father orchestrated for the Italian-American Civil Rights League.
Wow.
Which is the greatest extravaganza ever put on and the biggest collection of superstars that ever were under one roof.
How did your father have these deep-rooted connections? Like, how did he become so, like everyone's... It sounds like everyone's really good
it sounds
friend.
like he was a people's person, and just
crazy.
everybody loved him.
He was legitimately crazy. He would do things for people that nobody would do.
Give us an example. Give us an example.
You want to give an example? He owned a funeral home and catering halls because he said Italians only spent money when they died or got married.
Wow.
So when somebody in the neighborhood died and they couldn't be buried, he would bury them and give them a top-class send-off, and we used to have to go there and mourn.
Wow.
I remember as a kid, Dad, I don't want to be a shut-up, he used to tell me.
So he used to just do the whole thing for free for them?
Yeah, for free. That's what he did.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I can see that going a long way.
You complimented his hat, he put it on your head.
Just here, take it. It's yours.
Yeah, it's the way it was. We had, it's in the paper and the Daily News or whatever. There was a guy, Vinny Momo. His name was Momo something, but he had Down syndrome. And he was special. And my father had a philosophy: women, children, elderly, handicapped, and the challenged. Not that women are weaker sex. You should be respectful and look after. So Vinny Momo took a lot of abuse in the neighborhood till my father kind of adopted him. And under his glass desk at his real estate office was a picture of me, my sister, the younger two, and Vinny Momo. And Vinny used to come in, and my chief of police, Chief Geary, was our captain in Brooklyn. Straight shooter, good guy. I loved him. And he had a sister-in-law that was special. So this guy, Vinny Momo, the cops gave him the uniform, everything but the gun, and it looked real. And he'd be giving out tickets, shaking you down, yelling at you.
Wow. Wow.
He'd go to the dealership, my father was involved, dressed as a detective, put him against the wall, shake him down. Everybody had to go along with it. And then originally when my father was giving him money, the younger kids used to take it from him. You know, they could be abusive. He put an end to that. So Vinny Momo had a tab anywhere in Brooklyn. He'd go in and send the bill to the boss. And he took care of his sister, who was special, and his parents weren't doing all that well. So my father, and when Vinny Momo used to disappear, you had 200 guys out looking for him. He was worried.
Wow.
So I never forget, people that are special like that, if you challenge them or get nasty when they hit themselves, they panic.
Mm-hmm.
And they even defecate. It's really sad. So a deli opens up under the L in Brooklyn in between my father's office and where the funeral home is. It was a big shopping area. And naturally, he walked in. And my father let him go to the tailor. He'd have Superman costumes made, Batman, whatever he wanted, he got. And I was scared to death of Vinny Momo because he was jealous. I used to grab my leg and yell at me with that face, you know. So Vinny Momo wasn't my first person to be around until I got older. And then I looked after him also.
Wow.
Right, of course.
But wherever Vinny Momo, his sister went, and my father used to pay their rent. And there were guys that were in charge of watching Vinny Momo. I mean, he took it to that's what he believed in.
His own son, basically.
Yeah. Said, listen, take care of this kid. Make sure that,
Yeah, for the grace of God, go out, he used to say. And, you know, and people serve power. Power doesn't serve people. And you're only as good as your last deed, he used to tell me. When he died, the police department gave him a captain's burial. They paid for it. He had the horse, the 21-gun salute. That's how beloved he became.
Wow.
Wow.
Like the articles in the Daily News are one of them. You could Google it.
For sure. No, what I was trying to say before, because your father's obviously very powerful and influential. So I've always
They said 10 most powerful man in America, New York Magazine.
Yeah, and I feel like that's how it was back in like the early or the mid 1900s, 1950s.
Well, you're an expert too? All right, come on,
I think.
Enlighten me.
No. I just from what I read and what I saw, you know, because I always
a man is a man in any era.
Yeah,
right.
We're evolutionary, not revolutionary.
Because what I was trying to say is just I feel like, you know, as things progress throughout almost closer to the 2000s, a lot of that closeness, family, loyalty, you know, respect, that kind of fell off to the wayside. I felt like a lot more people got selfish.
Family unit broke down.
Yeah, that's that's exactly
which
it.
Which is what we talk about.
Broke down.
I mean, you see a lot of the the disrespect and the way that society idolizes the wrong people, in my opinion.
That's what I'm here to try and stop.
Right, and I think it comes back
I
to
can save one kid, it's worth it.
right. So what you're saying is it's the family, right? And I want to say, okay, if this person's going off the rails, right? This young adult or this child is going off of the rails. Where's his father? Yeah. Where's his mother or her? Right? What does the family look like?
From their family breaking down.
Right, and it's like where you trace it back, and they say, "Oh, it wasn't around." Okay, trace it back to the grandparents or the great grand. Like, where did the family unit break down? Because I guarantee there was at some point the family unit broke down. Father had left, or mother had left. I can tell you my theory. You know,
women's lib is probably the worst thing that happened to women that wanted to be stay-home mothers.
Women's what?
Lib.
Women's lib. What's that? What is that?
It was a big thing. Women couldn't smoke. They didn't want them to vote. Women's lib.
Okay.
Whatever. So it did some good, but now it allowed them to get jobs, but they cut the man's jobs pay low to give 2 jobs. Mm. So it hurt in a lot of areas, but it helped in some. But I'm going to tell you something. I went through a divorce, and my kids call me a mom, dad. I stabilized them because of all my nonsense. I have a lot of guilt from it. I never expected to beat my case. 71 counts in federal trial. It spanned. They made me wait 3 years to arrest me, and then with a lot of harassment tactics. And then 5 years under serious house arrest. And then they took me to trial with 7 months. I beat every count, except I was hung 11 to 1 in my favor. They made me wait another year.
Wow.
But then they made me wait for sentencing. So that's 11 years. Justice delayed is justice denied.
What was, how did you go through that whole situation? Because I remember you saying, I think this is what you're talking about. At one point, your whole family got indicted. And it was...
That was in 85.
Back in 85. Okay. Because I wanted to ask you, because I know you said at one point, all your brothers and all your family was in jail, and you're the only one out, and you were taking responsibility for everyone's wife, everyone's kid, everyone's mother,
I did
father.
What was needed in each area.
Yeah.
It actually helped me as a father. And what I told the kids is, you can get another house, another car, we got to get through this, but I can't replace a kid.
Yeah.
So you got to listen to me.
So how did you manage all that? How did you manage all that, those emotions, taking care of everyone's needs?
I was always the bad guy.
What does that mean?
It was always my fault. Their successes were their parents, their failures were mine.
Even though you were taking care of them, why some of their...
the best I could. And gambling actually opened that avenue to help me.
Mm. So you were essentially providing for, like 3 or 4 families with 3 or 4, 5, 6 people.
Stayed for my mother and my sister, the same way my father was.
Yeah.
His father was assassinated also.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. Well, like you said, that's more of a
family
lesson.
Values that was instilled by my father got me through.
And now you're trying to instill those values in the younger generation, which is why you said you're doing these podcasts, and what you're saying, if you can help one child to direct them on the path of 2,000
underprivileged kids each year, he really gave the people what they needed.
Yeah.
So what sorts of things are you doing? Is it just podcasting? Are you doing other things to try to help out?
I had a very bad tussle with Lyme disease. I had double hip replacement. I was blind for 7 years. I have neurological Lyme, and when undetected, I locked up on my Hamel court like the Tin Man. I was infirmed. I was blind. I was deaf. I was given 6 months to live in 1998. I died 3 times. Once recently again. I had a tick in me for 8 months. I didn't realize it. I had 3 strokes, Bell's palsy, enlarged heart, hypothyroidism, name it. And then I built up anaphylactic shock to the only known cure for it.
Wow.
So I died twice that day and had a dream I died. Told the doctor, he thought I was crazy. Then he gave me the shot and he said I was right. And it was actually funny because I'm dying and laughing and saying, I told you so. And I was so disgusted at that point, I told him, don't revive me. But he's going to call an ambulance. I says, you dummy. I says, the ambulance takes you to the doctor. I'm already here. What, are they going to drive me around the block to take me to the undertaker? I've been there.
So you died. You said you died twice. I mean, was that an experience you can remember, or any kind of feelings that you?
I had a dream it happened.
So what was that like?
God calls you an idiot. Didn't you see my dream? And I told him, Lord hates a coward. You're the big guy. What am I supposed to do? Run away?
Yeah. So you had said that you actually had met God when you died.
Twice.
What was that experience like?
Seeing without seeing, hearing without hearing, talking without talking. It's an exchange of energy. When people say it's white, you have that feeling of here. It's just light. an exchange of energy. I actually made him laugh a couple of times. Called me an idiot.
Well, you actually said that laughter is the medicine for the soul.
Medicine for the soul, yeah.
Right?
Well, God's laughing, and there's my soul, so it's got to be medicine.
That's so funny.
That's good. You made him laugh. It's medicine for the soul, and you came back to life.
Yeah, they hit me with the paddles. I woke up. I never forget when I went down. Actually, it looked like I was looking down into one of those globes you shake.
Mm-hmm.
And there it was. It looked like a blip of water when I came out. It was just the feeling I got that it was you're losing your senses. I think it's sensory deprivation. Like a sensory deprivation tank. It's almost recreating the amniotic womb.
Wow.
Very safe feeling. No worries, no everything, but there's no food there.
No food there.
Or cigars, so you better buy these cigars quick. They're good.
Listen, if there's no cigars in heaven, I don't know if I want to go, man. Okay.
What are you afraid? The Lord hates a coward. So anyway.
The Lord hates a coward. All right.
He's gonna greet me with a stogie in hand. Say, come on, I got the best shit in here.
Well,
come through these gates. I got the best shit
that,
in here.
Nice try. But anyway.
Yeah, maybe he might. Yeah, he might. I got the best stuff. Okay, I got the best stuff in here. He won't.
Hey, it's really an Rastafarian. He gives you good stuff. I guess he's what you want him to be. But to me, it's what I needed to continue.
Yeah,
I had given up at that point. But I had the double hip surgery. I made at the time, I had anterior bilateral double hip replacement at once. I didn't even know it was my hips. The doctors appeared, diagnosed me with sciatic, and had me doing a stupid implant, peanut stretch, taking Celebrex, which almost killed my heart. And my son had a congenital hip disease. I brought him to the best of me. I go to the vet. That's going to be really expensive. I spend more money on my dog than me.
So from that moment on, what have you done differently? Have you done anything differently? Have you changed anything?
I had one other time before that. I just gave people another shot again. Because when you go on trial for your life, and I even put a line out on my sentencing, under and over.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years, right?
Yeah, that was, because my guidelines are 56 months.
You see your real friends, how high or how low they really give you.
I admitted everything I did. I didn't allocute. But I had my lawyer do an opening statement saying, "Mark guilty for that." We're not even arguing.
Now, because you said your father never wanted you or any of your family members to be a part of what he was doing. Well,
I didn't know what he was doing, but he didn't want us to be a part of what people said he was doing.
Okay, and so
I'm not easy to corner. Go ahead.
No, that's perfectly fine. This is why I love it. But what was it about the difference between you and your brothers?
Everybody has their own gifts, and society inhibits that by thinking you should act a certain way. I believe God gives you what you need to flourish. At IBM, you got to wear a yellow tie, have a certain protocol. Why does a CEO have to act this way? Why does a police have to act this way? Can't we all act honestly and be nice? And respect should be mandated mutually.
Yeah, give respect to get respect.
I don't do it to get it. I give it because that's the
it's the right thing to do, right? But to the
that's
point
of intrinsic value,
right? Is you should naturally give respect to other people, and they should naturally give respect to you.
There were 3 things that were off limits with my father. If you didn't tell him the truth, he couldn't help you, and if you didn't show respect, there was a problem. Me, I never got in. I told him the truth, but I was respectful. But if it came to ratting out my brothers, I just said nothing, just like that. So it was real simple for me. I knew the rules. And the other thing was drugs were not negotiable.
Sure.
Well, your father, you said your father never touched him, so naturally you said it's off limits. That's
it's like hitting yourself in the head with a brick. Inexpensive.
I think you were saying too, and it's with your kids as well. But when your father didn't yell, but when he yelled, you guys laughed. But when he gave you a look, you guys were scared. And I think you said it's the same way with your
father
kids.
was that way too. When he was yelling, because he cared. The same with me.
Okay.
If I'm really mad, I'm quiet.
Yeah, that's usually the case. I usually, my father doesn't yell either, but usually he just gives you the eyes or just.
A neurological line, when it's bad, they cause they get between the neurons and the synapses to fire, the spirochete. You got that problem that you have to move around it. Then when you kill it, you have black holes where they were, and you got to regrow them. Mm-hmm. So when the brain heats up when you get mad or aggravated, you scream like you got Tourette's. And it's entertaining if you get to know me because the kids laugh. Do you remember what you said? One time I called him a car pedophile because he captured my car. It took him 10 years to paint it, an antique car.
A car pedophile. All right, that's the first one.
You know what you are? And I was screaming, and it broke the spell because everybody around me was laughing, including him. We became great friends. But it took him 22 years to finish my car.
22 years. How does that happen?
You know what it was? He heard the name, and he was a perfectionist. He was an ex-DJ, probably the best car painter in the world. And I collect Damon Runyon characters for some reason. And he was such a perfectionist. He tried to get it so right that he keeps starting over. It was a 79 Silver Anniversary Edition Trans Am, and it was a lot of work. So his excuse was I made him nervous.
Made him nervous.
So you made him so nervous it took him 22 years.
Yeah.
That's
Actually,
that's
I think he
long
thought
time.
I was going to for the rest of my life and then rushed it when it didn't happen.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Did you ever go to jail?
Yeah, sure.
How long were you in jail for?
I think close to 2 years. But my judge, I was in a camp, and she took away organized crime because she didn't find any violence. So I could go to a camp. And then they were sending me to, because I got friendly with the guys that check the bracelet and pre-trial that works for the judge.
Right.
I mean, 5 years, I was like around the water cooler talking about the gossip in the office, right? And they called me up and says, Chris, and she insisted I go right here to Otisville. So she gave me a year and a day, which allows you to have good time. She gave me a year. I served the full year. So she helped me. She's the reason I gave up crime or even any form of it, because when you save a life, I believe the karma goes back to the person what you do with it. She deserves good karma.
Mm.
She was tough, she was fair, and you couldn't buffalo her.
Mm.
And she called it the way she saw it. And she believed, even though bookmaking is not a violent crime and I did it right and all that, but the amount of time that I did it for, I didn't see that. And then everybody felt she put me in jail. I made a TV show called House Arrest, making fun of my things. So I'm not down as almost crime. For that show, they made me a communications threat. I mean, I don't understand how eating a lobster roll and getting a suit could be against national security, but all right, I'll take it.
So you made, so I saw a little bit of that. So it was like an episode or two, and the judge was like
I had
not
pride.
having it.
John Albert was coming on. Sheila Nevins actually was the one that found it, and she said I was a good man and she was going to help make this show, and she liked me. And one of my charities is Children's with Tourette's, and I took a table, but I couldn't go. And she had just did that film, I Got Tourette's, Tourette's Doesn't Have Me, and it was for all the kids that starred in it. And she went to my judge, and I wasn't allowed out. I could only go for medical, religious, or lawyer, and I'd have to get approved to go by pretrial. It had to be approved by the prosecution, go past the judge. I couldn't even go out my store to have a cigarette and walk my kids to the thing then. She went to where the judge was, Sheila Nevins, the most powerful woman in broadcasting, I think 21 to 26 Oscars, 31 Emmys, I don't know many Peabodys, and I think a Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow.
So John Albert's going to be on the show. He's similar, and he was the guy, the cameraman and everything. So she went to the judge and asked the judge, could she parole me to her custody for the evening for the benefit? So the History Channel just gave me an interview. I got annoyed with them at one point. I'll show it. But anyway, I took a Tourette's, a.k.a. line fit. This guy asked me, did I hate my grandfather? Which is unfathomable. I mean, these are not words we use. At that point, I think the judge started looking at me differently when you have the most powerful woman and as a judge, and a very powerful one, a very smart one and a very strong one, see the most powerful woman in broadcasting, putting me in her custody.
Mm.
So tell us what jail was like, because you said you didn't go to
Well, the camp was easy, but it was free movement. It was everything. But how they screwed me was they let me out of there 4 months, and you have to be in there 6 months to qualify a halfway house. So I had to live in the halfway house, get picked up in the Bronx, travel up here to a job, work because it was a distance. Everybody else had to be back by 9. Then you had to go home on weekends, and they called every 5 minutes, destroyed your family. So I stayed home for Christmas, violated, and then I had to do the full time because I couldn't do that to my family. And I'd rather be, but then they sent me to a penitentiary through diesel therapy. And to be a guy with hardly no time around guys that are never coming home, and to have a name, people challenge you, there's check-in moves, they hit you like they hit John Gotti, just to be transferred and be in places where there are no Italians and they could reign. So a foreman's after you, but it was jail. It's a predatory environment.
So did you have any, I guess for lack of a better term, memorable moments that somebody had challenged you, or you had to defend yourself, or?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Jail was very segregated, very racist. I was not. So I got along with everybody as long as they weren't informing. So I could go on any court, any table. They liked me.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were normal. The older guys stabilized. The guys doing a lot of time are very secure in their place. They want to make it a good place. They don't want problems. And Italians don't hang paper. They don't report the guards. You know, Italians don't run and complain to people. As an ethnic group, that's why we get the dirty end of the stick. We don't come together to protest peacefully like my father showed him to do. That's why he was our leader. And unite to help other ethnic groups, and he merged with the blacks and the Jews, and that's another story for another day. But the problem with one guy, and he blindsided me when I walked in the unit. Big guy, some other guys, an ethnic group, I don't want to mention it. Not black, not Spanish. And I'm making like I didn't get hit because you go to the hole. It's like, Ratnam said, let's go to the cell. I'll fight you. I'm whispering to him, come on. And he kept hitting me. So then when he called me the C word, then I got mad and I went to work.
Oh, wow.
I thought I lost the fight till they showed it to me. So now they shut down the whole compound for me. And they're taking me to the hole. They got me shackled up. My eyes like this. My nose is broken. And I fought for quite a few guys for quite a period of time. And then they hit the goon squad. They lock the whole place down. They rush in with the shields, the masks, the mace, the bats, whatever, the tasers. And they put me in a hole, and they put me in the hole with a black gentleman, Curtis. And we got really close, Curtis, but they put me there because they thought he was going to clip me. So Curtis was about 6'9". I think he killed 15 people on the street, 2 guys in there, and broke the guard's back.
Jeez.
I walked in, he had dreadlocks down to his ankles, 2 gold teeth, and he was looking at me when I walked in. So I look at him and I said, oh, shit. I just fought. I'm exhausted. I'm walking in these stupid shackles. I says, I don't know how to fight in the hole. I says, but I'm close. I could do good. But I don't know if I have the energy for this. I didn't know what to do. So, you know when your nose gets from getting broken, all that mucus and blood?
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
And I wiped it on his thing, all the stuff. And I said, I'm going to bed. Wake me up in the morning. I just laid down and figured if it kills me, it kills me. So I wake up and I'm looking at him, and he looked like Predator. You know, it says, what the F are you? That's what he looked like with the dreadlocks. So he's looking at me like a puppy, you know. So I look at him and said, what are you looking at? He didn't say a word. I says, listen, they took my commissary, my calls, my visits to 2020. At the time, it's 2010 or 11.
Wow.
I says, because of this fight. Because I wouldn't admit there was a fight, even though it was on camera. I said, I don't know what happened. Fight. They didn't fight. You know, and he said, well, here's the video. That's how I knew I did pretty good in the fight with all these people. Until I thought I got my head kicked in. And I have a movement that's a short reach. I'm very good with my hands. But anyway, it's like a bicycle move.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like hitting the fast bag.
Yeah.
So
Hit the speed bag.
Short, I says, get over there and write my sister a letter. Let her know I'm in the hole so she doesn't worry about it. I can't contact her. He says, you expect me to write some letters? No, I'm telling you to. This is mandatory. You got to do this. Why should she worry? And he said at the bottom, P.S., why did your brother write a rubber booger on me?
He wrote that.
The guy in jail, they thought they could eat me up. So they're watching me and I'm playing. We put up a sheet, like a string, and we're playing volleyball because it's very boring in the hole.
Yeah.
And we're making things and we're laughing and we're doing puzzles. And he was on the gate crying when I left. He missed me. He says, I could do the rest of my 39 years like a breeze if you stay. Thanks, but I got to go.
So you made so what they thought was going to be like the end of your days, you made a best friend.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was not a bad guy. I mean, he repented for what he did, but he was still capable. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
they thought he was beat me up.
That's a big guy, 6'9", 6'9". I'm assuming he's 250 plus.
6'9", in jail, you got perfect sleep. You can eat the right way, and it's perfect for training.
That's all you do is train all day, right? So
that's it.
So this actually brings up a good topic. So speaking of training, you actually were a power lifter at one point. I mean,
I train motivational speaking. I train. Well, you can ask Anthony. I trained for brokerage houses. I was a stockbroker. That's when it went bad in '86. That's even powered my bookmaking even more because I looked at it from a number. And my forte was I started out as purchases and sales. The ledger book to keep it flat. The same thing you'd want to do in bookmaking.
Yep.
And didn't have computers then when I went home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how did you get into the powerlifting? What started you into powerlifting?
Oh, it started me into powerlifting.
Because not many people know about power. Squat, bench, deadlift. Just lift as much weight as you possibly can, and it's not so much about.
One of the best weight trainers you're going to find. And I'll tell you who taught me and how I started lifting weights. 198 weight. I benched 476, and you got to hold it on your chest for a clap. I either squatted 750 or deadlifted 750 and squatted 775. I can't remember. That's what powerlifting is: squat, deadlifting, and bench.
I wrote here best deadlift was 775. I think that's when I read from one of your articles.
But I was drug free. There's guys that do more. What I train is supporting muscles with heavy weights and ligaments in your tendons. I work out in my sauna at what do we work out? Like 180 degrees with 6 pounds in each hand because low impact on the joints.
You work out with your sons?
Yeah, he's a monster now. He thinks he knows everything. Powerlifting, to answer your question, I was venting my anger. I had a lot of anger. I went to the gym and I started up again. Because with the Lyme, they gave me a lot of prednisone, which blew me up. And bicillin and RNA growth hormones, 7 oral antibiotics. It was a 10-month protocol. I don't know if I'm all right, but I drew my line in the sand. I couldn't take the Rocephin because I was still allergic to it. The anaphylactic shock is still there. I drew my line in the sand. It was very bad this time around. I didn't think I was going to make it. Doctor said pray. And we tried the bicillin, and it's a horse needle, and it comes out like oatmeal in the needle, and you got to boil it till it's like glue. And that 2 minutes in each cheek that you take, and it's like this much, is the most agonizing pain. Not even the double hip replacement or the therapy. And I walked out 3 days afterwards. The third morning, I walked out of double hip replacement. Doctor thought I was crazy. I had the best, Dr. Jose Rodriguez. He was Hawkeye Mash in Afghanistan, and that's why he's furthered it. And we've got a great friendship from that. And now, from doing me 10 years ago, everybody's coming out of it in 3 days. So I actually changed medicine, my outlook.
That's incredible because 3 days. I mean, most people are in there for extensive period of time trying to.
Yeah, they said minimum is 10 days in the hospital.
Yeah.
2 weeks in L&A's. I was going through a divorce, and my ex was looking to take the kids. She put in papers. I was trying to climb out of the bed right after the surgery. Made the kids leave.
You're like, screw this. I need to get out of here. I don't care about the 10 days. I'm getting out of here now.
The doctor tells me, he says, I told you could go home, but I've never seen it. I says, why does it have to be a week? And he had it 10 days and 2 weeks. I don't know. He says, well, you got to walk around the hospital floor twice. He says, go up these stairs, and there's a platform, and down with your crutches or your walker. He says, and that's what you have to do. It takes 7 to 10 days. I said, I'll do it tomorrow morning. I says, why the 2 weeks in Helen Hayes? He says, okay. He says, you have to be able to get out of the bed without the thing. You got to be able to sit yourself because, you can't bend. You put the commode over the hole over the toilet, be able to take a shower, shave, and help yourself alone. I said, I'll do that the second day. He says, I've never seen it. If you do it, I'll discharge you. I was seeing stars because the ether is still in you. I mean, I went to the bathroom, I puked, I didn't let him know.
But you did it.
Back, he says to me, listen, you might have to stay another week. I says, well, why is that? He says, they don't have people to come to your house in the area.
Like, I don't need them.
He says, yeah, this was at Lenox Hill. He's now with the Hospital for Necessary. Dr. Jose Rodriguez, knees and hips. The hands are gone. Everything. I like to say it was all me. And he said I was so thick, my hands disintegrated, but he had to send for a sawzall. He was sitting on my chest. He was sweating. It took him 9.5 hours. I lost 2 pints of blood. I guess he says I'm built like a Neanderthal. Because the silverback gorilla is my get statues. There's my spirit animal. So anyway, he says to me, you got to stay at least a week or 2 weeks because, you can't get in a car and in and out and go every day for physical therapy. I says, Doc, I got my pickup truck outside. The guy's just ransacked your extra stuff. I'll bring it back. I'm ready for that. I rehab at home. He laughed whenever he called off, and he discharged me. And then when I walked in a week later to your first visit without a cane and without a thing, I got like a standing ovation. But now they're doing it for everybody. If I could do it, they could do it.
Yeah.
The amount of pleasure you could take is the amount of pain you could take. If you can take that much pain, you can take that much pleasure, and vice versa.
That's a good way. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
The amount of pleasure you can take, the amount of pain you can take. I mean, the body. I've heard a lot of. I've read and listened to a lot of stories of people that have put themselves through, agonizing where people said you can't take that much, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they said watch me, and and they go through it. I mean, case in point, there's a gentleman, David Goggins, I'm sure you've heard of, who had run 100 miles. I said, you want to go into this race, you have to run 100 miles. And he goes, I've never run that in my life, but I'm going to do it. And he said he couldn't even feel his feet.
I couldn't shrug 1,200 pounds.
And you do it. You're like, listen, you tell me I can't do something. It just makes me want to do it more. Just the same thing we started the show off. We said people want what they can't have. If you tell me I can't do something, it makes me want to do it more. Yeah. And
I can hang out with you.
It makes me want to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I can hang out with you.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. And hopefully next time we do this, we'll hang out in person instead of over
Everyone,
Zoom.
you can film it in person too if it helps.
We'd love to do it in person. It's always better in person.
It's almost like the most motivating thing that you can tell somebody is that they can't do something. Right? If they have the fire in them.
The most motivating person, I don't use the words can't. I don't use any negatives. So I lift the way I move. Like when I box, my curls are this way. Follow me? I went back to the gym recently. I think he's got the video. I curled 120 pounds with each hand. Follow me? So yeah. I lift the way I move. A lot of people inhibit themselves, and I do full stretch. Full extension, but not lock out, which will hurt the ligament and tendons and the joints. So there's a philosophy and a science to that, too. I trained with Nick Cali. That's how I got really good. I originally trained a guy, Mickey O'Brien, was a friend of mine. Later on, I dated his daughter. He was a Teamster. He was a Mad Dog, Marine, Area 51. He represented the United States in Pan Am Games. He's the one that introduced me to Floyd Patterson, who taught me how to box, but I have a very short reach.
Which is why you're good. You're good when you get inside, right?
Yes. If I get inside, you're finished. I have the most pounds per square inch from a 6-inch, 8-inch punch than anybody on the planet. Because my full force is there, and I know how to use it.
So you like to get inside. So you like to get up in. You like to get up in there, get inside.
I know his face got this way. I took a lot of pain.
Well, that's another thing too. Is
I never started a fight, and I let them throw the first punch.
There's there's the risk reward with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get inside, you get a couple hits in, they're going down, but you
only need one.
You also throw you put
superstructure of houses.
You put your body, and that's why you said you're gonna if you're up on the inside,
throw a haymaker and connect, and you don't connect that often. My haymaker's only this far away.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said, listen, it doesn't matter who you are. You get one shot, anybody can go down. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. But there was
It's easier to punch down. It's easier to punch up than it is to punch down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm level to their core. Weightlifting is to work on your weak spots, your weak muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the ring finger because it's the most uncoordinated part of the body, and only strength.
Yeah.
As I could break your nose with that. And then I worked on my solar plexus. You can't wind me.
In the beginning of our conversation, when I was doing my introduction, you mentioned the word that I said. You don't really say it. So I do have to ask because I don't
empower negativity.
This has nothing to do with negativity.
Are you going off with the Godfather?
A positive thing because you have the El Padrino poster in the back. Yes. I've always heard, read, saw that your father was one of the people that met, Francis Coppola, and said to take that word out.
No, what happened was he shut them down through the unions and the Italian American Civil Rights League. And the truth that they don't tell in the offer, and Al Ruddy's office rocker, that's one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast. He came to bribe my father. He brought $500,000.
Who tried to bribe your father?
Al Ruddy.
Okay.
He was the Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
So my father says, if you read Peter Bart's article, nothing in the offer is true. He was there on the Paramount set. He was the vice president of production. The president was Bob Evans. And Al Ruddy was just out of his mind what he did. So he comes and meets my father at the Park Sheraton Hotel, which is the Italian American Civil Rights League headquarters. And in 1970, $500,000 is money.
Yeah, for sure.
Gives him the money. He says, take your money, bring the script. He says, as long as you don't use that M word, and you don't make Italians look bad or any other ethnic group, I will help you make the movie. And he did. And he helped them make The French Connection. And I was in that movie, by the way, because the Italian American Civil Rights League had a hockey team. And I remember going to Al Ruddy's office when he did the casting. My father liked Al Ruddy. If he knew he was going to turn out to be a jerk, I don't think he would have liked him so much. And historically, everything in that movie is a blatant lie. And they portrayed him terribly. And that's one of the things, the point I get across. Right now, as you're alive, anything I can do, if I don't tell the truth, I'm liable. But once you die, I can paint you any way you want. They've done it to law enforcement. They've done it to everybody. The Godfather home, inaccurate. They had my father a cross between Dom DeLuise and Quasimodo, talked like Ratso Rizzo, the Midnight Cowboy. I mean, it's ridiculous. And he was very articulate and meticulous about his ways and his ethics and his morals. One scene, they have him calling Mickey Cohen to come shoot at Al Ruddy. Mickey Cohen was an Alcatraz. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the what's the word? The infatuation with the media and the Hollywood of just painting it one way, like Justin was kind of saying, you know,
a lot of the scenes in The Godfather are true and based on true stories. And my father loved the book, and he loved the movie. He didn't get to see it, but when he saw a shot of it, and he helped them get Al Pacino. They had Ryan O'Neal playing Sonny, would have been disastrous. But Paramount pulled out the first $100 million film and 15 cents a copy. That's tough to build.
Yeah.
That was Love Story, and that was with Ryan O'Neal and I believe Ally McGraw, who married Bob Evans. And Peter Bart does a column, and he was there, and he says the guy's living on an island somewhere. And he did that one thing, and my father told him, keep the money, helped him make the movie, went on to be successful. Everybody loved it. Nobody had a problem with it, but we eliminated that M word.
Yeah. And what was your father's enrollment? What was he doing that helped produce the movie? Was he just giving guidance?
No, he got him Al Pacino, he got him James Caan, he got him Flat Clemenza.
Oh, so he was helping with the casting.
He helped him with the casting to make it authentic.
Yes. Who was it? Was it Sonny? Was
somebody had said that if he's not in the movie, then we're not going to make the movie.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He was a friend of your father's. I forgot his name. I watched his interview. He was
Johnny Russo.
Johnny Russo. Yeah.
Johnny Russo's been merchandising that forever.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I love Johnny. He's a friend of mine. But he could really, he's lived off the Godfather a long time.
So is the story true? Where he said, like, if Johnny's not in the movie, then we're not doing a movie?
I had no problem with Johnny Russo as the part whatsoever. Abe Vigoda came from my neighborhood. He played the part of Tessio well. The original people they only had was Crazy Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. Which did a very good job.
Yeah, he actually wore a mouthpiece that whole movie, right?
Yeah, I never understood the reason for that.
I never got it either. Like, what? I was going to ask you what your thought about that was, because I didn't see a reason for why are you going to make him like, you know?
Yeah, I never. Marlon Brando. I don't know. Marlon Brando.
Yeah. And I think that mouthpiece recently sold.
Turned down an Oscar for saying I don't know what he does. I mean, you know, it's like trying to figure out. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Although, I mean, it's iconic. I mean, when you go, I give him something, you know, make him an offer he can't refuse. Like, it's an iconic scene, and everybody knows that scene. But it wouldn't have happened if he's wearing a mouthpiece.
Maybe they saw something that no one else.
Maybe it was a security blanket for him in that role.
Yeah,
could be.
You know, he delivered a fantastic role. So
do you think of a? So you had said that The Godfather was inaccurate in a lot of ways.
Not The Godfather, the offer. The making of The Godfather.
I've never seen that show.
The Godfather was his actually made Italians act better. It wasn't the meaning.
Okay, so I misunderstood. So the offer was inaccurate, but the movie itself was a good movie.
Some of the content was very accurate. It's based on true stories.
Do you think that it's one of the most accurate films?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard
that time.
Yes, right. I have heard that. I've heard there's a few other films that are not quite accurate, that are more just, you know, glitz and glam for Hollywood. But I did hear from a lot of people that Godfather is a very accurate representation of what was going on in the Italian culture. And
yes. Was the movie? I'm not if it came out in 1971. Was that around the same time your father was shot? Was that before or after the movie?
We just earlier. We're back. Yes.
Okay.
Came out, was finished. He was shot June 16th and released at Christmas for its first viewings in that year, 71.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember reading something, or I think it was an article through the New Yorker that you did, and it was about him getting shot or assassinated, and it was the person that shot him didn't really shoot him, or I forgot the story about.
They said it was somebody else, and it really wasn't that person.
The FBI or something talked to him beforehand.
But he had an accomplice, a woman. They said, I have the picture proving it. And that day, there was no film of my father. They confiscated. The guy that died now. My father didn't like guns around. He was a friend of my brother's. He was a very tough kid, very nice kid. But when they were handcuffing the guy that shot my father, he crawled under 17 cops, shot him to death, left the gun there and his shoe, and walked to the hospital and stood by my father.
And who is it? Who is this? Who
called Brazil, Chubby?
So this is the person that shot your father, or not? Or
no, this is the person who shot my father.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. That makes more sense.
And he went away, and the FBI says, "Tell him to come back." We knew my father was getting shot that day. I didn't go because of that reason. And the FBI had made him a deal to back off his people, and they'll never bother him. He said, "I can't do that." They said, "You know what we got to do?" They said, "Do what you have to do. I'm not backing off my people." That's not what killed him. That's where my angry years came from. Not that he went down for what he believed, that he wouldn't back off the Italian people, the blacks, the Jews, or anything he felt was right, because he did what he felt was right. If that had consequences, he accepted them.
Sure.
Without anything. And anybody that had more than him and he was a very generous guy, too. And you could talk to him. You felt safe. He was interested in what you had to say. Before he made a decision, he would ask everybody, "What do you say?" And he would talk first. He had a way of bringing the better out of you, and you could trust him. His word was good. And he had no agenda other than to do what's right. And I think that should be all our agenda.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have always said the only time I've ever reached perfection, pardon the phrase, I don't like the curse, is when I've been a perfect asshole. That has come easy to me, with anger, with paranoia, with whatever you want to say. But we have to balance that. As long as we recognize it. And there are no perfect people. And in one of his phrases, that's why pencils have erases.
Ah.
All right. Another great saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I always heard the thing of being perfectly imperfect.
My father loved all people. The people of that era wanted you to marry Italians. None of my brothers married Italians, but he loved them the same. He loved his grandchildren. So he loved all people.
Yeah, we're all God's children, right?
I hope so. Either that or I'm on the wrong side of things, but I doubt it.
Nah.
But even if we are wrong, what's wrong with being good to people?
Exactly.
What's wrong with trying to do it right?
Exactly. I mean, that's the, I've always said that's the golden rule, right? I mean, we're both Christian men, and we believe that.
I went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, Catholic college, 3 years of Little Flower Montessori in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. How many fights I had on the way to that? I actually at one point wanted to be a priest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, Vince Lombardi was my idol.
Oh, Vince Lombardi.
Giants.
Oh, man.
He was my idol in motivational speaking, the way I coached football, everything. The way I addressed the guys in my finance office. Who are we? Soldiers of God. I mean, I make it simple. Who are we? What do we do? And this is what we are. And the only control a man has is self-control. The rest is up to God.
So what would you say is the biggest trait you took away from your father that you're living and dying by today? I mean, it sounds like
I didn't take anything from my father. He planted good seeds. And my sin was I saved a lot of people who weren't so good, and I got that karma. So you got to know who to help. I planted some poison seeds before you figure out who to help. And that's what I'm doing with the podcast. If I give them my picks and they depend on me, once I die, they're still susceptible. So I'm going to teach them and educate them. It's like my children. I'll know I did a good job if when they go through their hard times and I gave them the tools that they needed, or they will curse me that I didn't give them the tools.
Gotcha.
So I don't believe in a handout. I believe in a hand up. And I believe the tools to make it is important for the older people to give the younger people. And you learn that in jail by the older inmates, too.
Wow.
And that's like what, that goes with the old adage that says, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, but teach a man a fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Yeah. Right? So that's what you were saying. If you give somebody your picks.
I like talking to you.
Well, he's a very insightful guy. He knows a lot. I learned a lot from this guy.
Yeah. And he knows a lot. He knows how to apply it in the right way.
He does. He's a smart.
I can see it in his face. He's intrigued. He was expecting,
No, I had good parents. I will say that I had. Good
I can
parents.
tell that already.
But it goes to your point of you give somebody your picks, then great. They might win today. They might win tomorrow. They might win for the next 5 years. But when you're gone, they stop winning. But if you teach them,
they never learned, and now they have a gambling problem.
Right? Or you teach them the proper ways. Then when you're long gone, they know what to do. They have the tools in place to continue on. They understand, like you had said, self-control of if there is a addictive gene, how to recognize it and control it. Because once the addictive
the way they
gene,
market it, they're attracting the addictive gene.
that's the unfortunate side of
marketing, so I recognize it. Explain something to you. Why a gambling addict is most dangerous to himself and people around him is because an alcoholic, you can see it. A drug addict, you can see it. A gambler, you can't see it. And in my experience, they could con you out of your pants. And they're lovable when they need to be. Anthony, hand me a cigarette, pal.
I mean, and again, coming from someone who doesn't know much about gambling a lot, but
yes, but I see you process.
Yeah, when I don't know much about a conversation, I'm just a big sponge.
But realizes what he don't know, not what he does.
That's it.
But you know what? It's actually not necessary. It's not a bad thing because you recognize. Listen, I don't know, but I'm not going to get into it.
And isn't that normal?
Right? You're like, I don't know about this, so why am I going to gamble if I don't know how to gamble?
Game, we're talking about things I know. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. I
know your cigars now. They taste great. They're enjoyable to smoke. The burn is good. The leaf is good. Everything about it is what a cigar could be, and it's very smooth, but still has a taste.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You did very well with that. Put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah,
thank you.
It took quite a while. But
and you hit all the elements because I used to smoke a lot of cigars.
And now,
well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that means a lot. So, because just like with your businesses and anything that you do, you put your heart and soul into it. So, when you got someone else saying that it's a good product, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, it's a very
it's an enjoyable product, and I can see you put your energy and time into it.
Most definitely.
And we are grateful that you recognize the heart and soul that we put into that, because it's nice when somebody else. It's great when somebody smokes it and they say, "Yeah, I like the cigar."
For the good in things, if I don't find them, I run away.
That's another great thing that you put is to look through.
I'm happy to be here
because
we're happy that you're here.
I always say that there's. I see a lot of people when they like you had mentioned earlier in the show is we have a generation of complainers and people pointing out this and pointing out that and complaining about this and whining about that. And I said, well...
Could I raise my hand?
Yeah. Sure.
They have never had people like me and Murray Richmond, who was on the show. That's airing today. We have very different views. I believe in God. He doesn't. We're friends 31 years. One of the smartest guys in the universe. He hails me as the same. I think I'm dope personally.
No negative talk. No.
Just, it's just I don't use whatever intelligence I have to hurt.
Sure.
That wrong game. I count my blessings very well because I know what it's like to be able to have advanced Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So I'm not wasting my energy because that day is coming. You follow me?
Yeah, sure. You want to use your energy on the good, not on the negative.
Yes. You listen, you come into this world naked. You go out naked, or you take with you, and you're going to be judged for your deeds. And you're only as good as your last deed.
Yeah.
Joe Colombo, you get a bill in life, good or bad, when you leave it, as you used to say. But anyway, long story short, I'll get to the point. The point is, that's a cop-out that they're whining. What's happening is, people want to be right. They don't think, they don't evaluate. And where I learned that is my father used to listen to everybody said. He said he believed that the truth is where your perspective should be. The closer your perspective to the truth is, the more successful you'll be. So he'd say, if I talk to somebody and their perspective is 180 degrees there and I'm 20% off center where I should be, it might bring me here or vice versa. People are not willing to take the time to converse and think. They talk like they text. I think texting has put us back, I don't know how many years. Sure. I think the cell phones, FaceTime, people go out to eat, they take pictures. When do you enjoy the meal with the people? Mm-hmm. That's why I hailed this type of podcast. I wanted to do it. You sit around, you talk, you share, and you exchange. And what's the greater exchange of knowledge and feelings? And you can say anything against people. You say, be careful. I don't take it personally. When you argue with people, it's never a victory. Nobody ever wins a fight.
Sure. Right. And it's you bring up two good points. The first one is with the texting is people forget with this whole social media and being on the phone all the time and scrolling and text. They've lost the ability to be present and
That's
to be.
My phone. Yeah, I'll show it to you. I got a very advanced phone.
Yeah, I think I saw a flip phone in you.
Probably a flip phone, right?
Yeah, it's very true.
Exactly.
For 5 years, the government didn't let me have a phone. I might have took it back.
But people have lost the ability to be present and in the moment and enjoying the moment, right? And I see it where you had said that people lose this ability to converse and to be able to talk with people and understand, because I go up to my alma mater up in Rochester, and we recruit some kids.
Nice school.
Thank you.
That's a party school.
It was, yeah.
Nice town, too.
It was. I did my share of partying up there.
As we all did.
Yeah, of course. You're in college, I was on the basketball team, so I was an athlete as well.
Even more so.
We did a little bit more partying, right? But
that's why we get along. You're easily coachable. You're probably coached.
I was, yes. Yeah.
I could see that already.
My father was my coach. I also had a very good travel coach by the name of Ross LaCourte.
That's what I did, travel team. I didn't want to get involved with the parents. Coaching my son, there was no nepotism.
Yeah, he was a very, very good coach. But I go up there and I try to recruit kids and students to come and work for our company.
Basketball's a great game.
Love it. Team game. And I would know whether or not the students, because I'm in a sales role, right? So we recruit kids for sales. And I would know whether or not within the first 30 seconds, not even, first 15 seconds, whether or not these kids were suitable for the position. And it had nothing to do with the resume. It has nothing to do with the resume.
Right, nothing.
It is
the mental state of mind.
When you come up to me, do you shake my hand firmly? Do you look me in the eye? And do you introduce yourself? Those three things cannot be taught.
Right from the bat,
And if you don't do those, that's it. You're no shot.
There's nothing worse when you get one of these.
I was the opposite. I looked for the guys that didn't shake their hands, had pending drug problems, anger problems. I learned to prevent. I went with the bad news bears and made them have fun, gave them a value of self-worth, motivated them, and we were undefeated. One of my heroes, and it's a sin what happened to him, was Coach Paterno, and he happened to be there. And I played middle linebacker before Lawrence Taylor changed the game forever. And he did. And that job was couldn't control that middle of side, so you hit as hard as you could to make him hit footsteps. And then my idol in football was Rocky Blyer. They said he was too short. He went off to Vietnam. They blew his legs off. He was on the practice team for the Steelers. They told him he'd never walk again. He came back to win a couple, 3, 4, I don't know how many world championships. And he blocked and he hit like nobody. That's my kind of guy. I'm always for the underdog and let's beat the odds. The way I lost faith in people for a while, I think the kids from the family unit have lost faith. And that's what I try to reinstill. And I think that's the message that God gave me. I have to have faith in people to help them.
No, that's.
I would say some of those things.
That's very admirable. That's very admirable because, and that's kind of what I was going with the students is I don't really care what's on the resume because I would much rather have somebody that has a poor resume, right? Maybe they're not doing well in school, whatever. School's basically a memory game, okay? I want to take that guy who's maybe not as higher up, he's not on the dean's list, whatever, and give him the shot because I think he has the skills of
what I'd ask
personable, whatever. I don't want the person that...
I do it with everything, and this is correct. What's the first thing I ask? Do you like what you're doing?
Yes.
And what is your reason for doing it?
Yeah. It's a good indication for sure.
What's your why?
You can
what's
see
your motivation?
You can see their instant
and
reaction.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
because
definitely.
I learned from the Montessori system, and the one that was indicative of the best was Maria Montessori, was a nun. And when she taught her system of teaching, it was in India, they worked very hard. It was the theory is enjoy as you play, but play what you're doing, make it entertaining. I do that with everything.
Yeah.
Going to the store shopping is entertaining.
Yeah.
Right?
The things I hate to do, I make entertaining.
Well, that's what I say. Like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in.
I work very hard.
Well, no, but if you love it, if you enjoy doing it, yes, you're going to work hard, but it doesn't. There's a difference between hard work and having it feel like it's obligated work. Like I don't want to do this, but I have to. Right? If you enjoy it,
that is a mental state of mind. That's a block. Why don't you want to do it?
Right.
Block.
100%. To your point, is the things that you don't feel like you find a way to make them enjoyable and do them anyway. And that's where discipline comes in, right? If you want to get to X, there's a certain thing that you have to be disciplined.
People don't like to do things that they're afraid to do or figure they'll fail or be judged.
That's 100%, 100%. Because what I relate to that is I'm in the commercial insurance world. I'm in sales, but my thing is I walk into businesses. I go in, like what we said, shake the hand, look people in the eye, and
Sell yourself.
And people are like, what are you doing here? Why are you knocking on my door? And people are like kind of confused, like they want an email or a phone call. And it helps me out a lot because they're like, oh, no one ever comes by. Like, I don't know who this is. And it's a personal thing. It's like how the things used to be. Like, no, people used to walk in and be like, hey, how you doing? I'm Eric, and this is what I'm doing here today. And it works in my favor tremendously. Cause
I don't even know how to access my email. Anthony does it for me.
What's that?
I don't even know how to access my email. Anthony, our media guy.
But
I got Facebook. He's got to help me get through it.
It's true. I mean, the
There's
way
something to be said for conversation, for actually talking to people, seeing them in person, face to face.
I mean, I'll tell you this example. I was just in the Bronx last week. Stopped in, dropped my card off, and people in New York, they kind of just shoo you away. Like, they either give you time or they don't give you time. It's very black and white. And a week later, I got a phone call from that company that I stopped at and said, "Hey, you stopped by, you dropped your card. I need help."
Well, you have an endearing face.
Well, I appreciate it. My mom says you're not very good at a lot of things, but you are good looking. So
No, you have an endearing face.
I appreciate that.
You look a little bit like Steven Seagal.
You know what? You do look like Steven
so?
Seagal.
I've never gotten
I
that.
look at Steven Seagal personally.
I've never gotten that. I'll take that as a huge
you do
compliment.
look like Steven Seagal a little bit. I can see
Yeah.
that.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, it again, like if I call you, you'd be like, who's this schmuck calling me? But if I show up in your house or your business,
I gotta tell you something. I get up in the morning, and I like, because as bookmaking, and it took me a lot to adapt to the computer, I could tell people's attitude on the phone. I mean, sometimes people, you think they're nasty, they're not, they're having a bad day. Like, you could text me at 8 o'clock, good morning. I'll say, what do you mean, good morning? So you know what just happened? If you're on the phone, you know I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
most definitely.
Some of these phones have broke. In the old days, Italians lived in Italy, for instance. Grandparents, parents, grandchildren, children live in one house. Moderate, nice house, one car. But they dress up, they go out every night, they have a 4-day work week. People in this country are working, and with even the new liquor laws, which I agree with to some degree, because Mothers Against Drug Drivers, because when I was growing up, if I was speeding at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got pulled over, told the officer I was drunk, he let me go. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a ticket. If you killed somebody, it was diminished capacity, and I was almost killed by a drunk driver. So I never drank and drove. I was always designated drive. I didn't like to drink anyway. I get like a wild Indian. So anyway, I do anything I think it was. It's really fun. Well, long story short, it was needed, but we're not enjoying ourselves in this country. And what you're doing, I hail. Enjoy a good cigar, good conversation, and you can bring up any topic, not judge. Bring up thought, let people decide for themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Watch one news station, they're slanted this way. You see the same story on the next news station, it's that way.
Yep.
I'm used to, I'm Roger Grimsby, and here now the news. I'm Walter Cronkite, here's tonight's news. They gave you the facts.
Yeah.
Why do you have to change the news to give me a subliminal message?
Right. Let the people
Why?
decide for
You know?
themselves.
Yeah, think for yourselves. And
Yeah.
that's people losing. They're depending on the phones.
Yep.
They're depending on the computers.
They want
And
other people to do the
podcasts
thinking for
mine
them.
are reaching people.
Yeah.
And I hail you. I swear I like it.
Well,
Appreciate
we
that.
always say that there's people have become what we call sheeple, and they just want other people to do the thinking for them and just tell me how I'm supposed to think instead of give me the facts and I'll make the decision of how to think.
Practice makes permanent, not perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Practice makes permanent. And people are creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't-
for example, like leading up to you, I didn't want to just come into the interview with you and just assume just by
I saw that.
just by your name. So I watched interviews, I
Yeah.
read articles because I want to formulate my own opinion, my own line of questioning, however you want to do it. Because
What do you think so far?
I think you're a great guy.
It's been a great
You
show.
said you're a funny guy, and I was really hoping you're a funny guy, and you really are a funny guy.
No, we've had this has been a
Okay, amuse you. I'm a clown.
this has
Thank you
been
for picking up on that.
this has
Bill
been
Pesci deserved the Oscar for that role.
Oh,
did,
100%, 100%.
but this has been it's been a great conversation with you, and I'm glad that you came on. I'm grateful that you came on, and it's been really fun to get to know you.
Anytime you need me, I'm here.
I have one last question about Johnny Carson. My dad was a big Johnny Carson fan.
I'm a big Johnny. We were all Johnny Carson. Greatest monologue in history.
So funny, right?
Nice dresser.
The best.
But as I said, I get like a wild Indian. I understand it too. The relationship that Ed McMahon and my father made was incredible. My mother used to fry, and my mother wasn't the quintessential. She had blonde hair, blue eyes from Naples, but she was born here. And she was born like my father during the Depression. She was one of 13 children. My father only had a brother and a sister and lost a younger brother to whooping cough. And both of them had a sense of humor and had a different approach to things. They thought. And they would ask you what you thought. So when you got caught doing something, my father would say, why did you do that? And then he'd say, at least you had a reason. I never understood what he meant.
Yeah.
Until I got older.
Sure.
You know?
So what I was trying to say, we're obviously everyone's big fans of Johnny Carson, but
very big, huge.
There was a situation where Johnny Carson was getting threatened in New York, and your dad was a part of the people brokering a deal to not hurt him and make him move to L.A. Is that?
Oh no! What happened? I'm going to tell you the story.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Didn't do that, but he brokered the deal. Is the Italian American Civil Rights League? They changed the law to indict my brother Joseph on Hobbs Act, faced 20 years. Joey was a big coin collector, and he was collecting silver quarters and melting them down because the quarter was worth more in silver.
Yeah.
And he collected other coins. It was just part of what you did. And, he would always grab your change and look through it and put it in those things. It was a hobby since he was a kid.
Yeah, if the quarter was like pre-65, it was made with silver instead of like a metal alloy, right? Something like that?
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was maybe 65 cents for the quarter or maybe less.
Right.
But as many quarters as you could collect, if there weren't things.
I actually still do that. I hear if you ever get change, I listen to it because you can always hear if there's one that it has a higher ping than the other ones.
Yes.
I'm like, that one's made of silver. That's probably. I go, that's probably like 1950
Especially
or
the
40.
original clickers. If you drop pennies on the.
I always see it. You put change on the counter. I'm like, wait a second, hold on, that doesn't sound right. Yep, there it is. That one's worth $1.50.
That's how you know a bad penny.
Yep.
So anyway, the story goes like this. How the Italian American Civil Rights League, my father created AID, American of Italians Descent, in the 50s to unite the Italians and help them. Because in our neighborhoods, we didn't have Italian police officers, we didn't have Italian mayor, we didn't have an Italian chief of police, we didn't have Italian congressman. Italians never stuck together. And he thought that we should have one of people that represented our endeavors or our trials and tribulations to the best they can. So we always wanted to unite the people, and Italians were very prejudiced of each other because prejudice stormed out. If you had northern Italians had blonde hair and blue eyes, all Italians were that way, like Germans. And then Italy got invaded, so when the ones that had dark hair, dark eyes were considered part black. And so that went on in Italy before then it carried on to here. And it was very bad. Southern Italians didn't get along with upper Southern, the Northern, and the upper Northern was prejudiced about Italia. And he dealt with all that all his life. And he was half Calabrese, half Napolitano. And as we continue, they arrested my brother Joey, and it was actually, they changed the laws. It was a ridiculous case. Matter of fact, in the history of federal system, we gave no defense. The case was so bad. When they arrested, we said, go ahead, go to jury. That's how bad it was. So he took me and my sister, and he's on 69th Street, where FBI headquarters is kicking on the door, saying, take us all. And then his friends came, and then more people came. And then every night at 6 o'clock, they would gather around FBI headquarters and picket, but the news wouldn't pick us up. So we were picketing 200 to 1,100 people every night with signs, and there was a lot of harassment going on and a lot of Gestapo tactics. And they would chant, Heidi, 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 ho, the FBI has got to go. And this was under the Hoover times. It was very bad. Hitler vowed he'd never die. He'd come back as the FBI, and it would end up by going Zig Heil. And my father was infuriated that they would do that to his son. Take me, leave my son alone. Or take all of us. What are you doing? What do we live here? And there was one case for policy. They came in with machine guns in the funeral home and arrested a gentleman by the name of Tommy Babushka and took him out in front of his dead. It was for numbers. Told the mother never going to see herself with the father in the casket. I mean, they were doing some terrible things. And it wasn't all the FBI. It was the COINTELPRO division of the FBI. I have respect for the FBI and what it's formed for. I have respect for all law enforcement. And I treat them respectfully, and they've always treated me with a lot of respect. So, as we continue, no news station's doing it. Now, my father was a guy that did a lot of favors. That was part of what he liked to do. And he liked peace and harmony, and he felt that poverty bred violence. So if people could earn a little living and be able, they would be a little more happy. And he said success was if you got up in the morning and enjoyed what you went to do and didn't have to look in anybody's pocket, that was success. I think people go out and they earn money and they're not happy in what they're doing. Or they can't earn what they're happy at. So he always facilitated that. And he liked doing it. So what happens is Johnny Carson used to hang out at Patsy's, not the one in Harlem, the one on the west side. And there was a guy, a very strong, a guy that they would hail as a boss was there. Not the guy that they called me. It wasn't Joe Gallo. This guy, this is how it started. He called me for the interview, didn't listen to a word they said. And he said that my father brokered a deal. This came from Johnny Carson's lawyer. This came from Ed McMahon, the producer from NBC, came, Cy Kravitz, who was married Rocky Roxer from the Jeffersons. And she was black, he was white, had Lenny Kravitz. And I'm still friendly with his half-sister and their husband up here, and so on and so such. So Ed McMahon comes, and my father likes him a lot. He says, Johnny's hanging out, and Johnny liked to drink, and he was, if you didn't know Johnny, it wasn't disrespectful. I remember when Raquel Welch, I was a kid, I thought she was the most beautiful girl on the planet. We didn't have porn. We had the J.C. Penney and National Geographic, and I thought she was the most beautiful thing in that post that you saw, the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a post. I mean, she got me through puberty. And I'm watching the Johnny Carson show. He always had pretty women. He had animals, which I have a lot of. My alpaca just died. I got peacocks. I snatched the NBC peacock off the Cosby Show. I got Generations. Very hard to do one in captivity. I have unique tastes. I like what I like. And an animal will never lie to you. Or rat on me either. So anyway, Ed McMahon comes and they become great friends. But I liked him. He emceed Ed McMahon, both of the leagues extravaganza to raise money for the leagues. But from Frank Sinatra to Paul Anka to Sammy Davis to Jimmy Durante to Frankie Valli. It was the greatest star-studded extravaganza ever. All for the league. And Ed McMahon emceed it for him. So Ed McMahon is doing the show because Johnny's hiding in New Jersey. And this guy really wants him because, those people that ever, you didn't abuse any women and children, especially theirs. And, and if your kid was wrong, it isn't like you made him right. I mean, and Johnny went too far, and, he was drinking. If I drank that much, I've been there myself. But this guy wasn't having it. Because Johnny pushed it far. They threw him down the stairs because they heard he was coming to get him out of there because this guy just took it seriously. And he had lost his son, had a brain aneurysm. He made the kid shovel snow. He thought he was lazy when the kid died, so he was an angry person also. He blamed himself. And here's Johnny bothering his girl. And and the guy says, I'm going to break his face when I see him. And he went to NBC. He didn't care. Jail did not matter to him if you hurt his children or the women. He got more protective after he lost his son. Only man that ever scared me.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember I was a young boy. This is the first time I saw how much heart my father had. So I had an Aunt Fanny. And after we were born, she was there. She was a character. But what she used to do was teach us the F word. Because she was a little resentful that my mother and father go on vacation. She would babysit, so she'd say F till you came back. So she taught you how to curse, just to get a rise and break her sister's balls. And bother her husband, Uncle Mike, who was meticulous. So it was right after he came back from vacation, and she taught me the F word. So this guy was at the house waiting for my father. He was sitting downstairs. And I call him a fat F. And this guy screams, and he looked like a bulldog. And he was ferocious. He yelled at me. I think I almost peed myself. And the only man I ever feared, I was under the dining room table. And he comes upstairs, and my father's there. He said, what's the matter? I'm shaking. He tells him. My father looked like he was jumped out of his bag. I never saw him mad before. Who are you? My son and his eyes. I got more afraid at that point. And my father, because I said, this guy's going to eat my father for lunch. I said, I better get out from under this table and try to help here. You follow me?
Yeah.
I stood under the table. He says, I think he's got this. Right? And the guy's going, but Joey, I'm sorry. He said, I don't want to hear it. He said, lucky we're friends. And he says, I'm lucky I'm yelling at you. Don't ever yell at a kid again, especially mine or any other kid, you understand? And the guy just shrunk. And then they sat down and everything was fine. We apologized. Please, thank you. I'm sorry. You're welcome. Went a long way with him. And it was a long way with me, and it should go a long way to the magic words I was doing. So once he said he was sorry, everything's good. He took me, hugged me. I was white. God, I got this guy's hands on. After my father got he was in jail. He went to jail, and he came out. And the first place he left from jail, he loved my father so much, he pulled right here to the house where we were. I was 16 years old, and I was a badass. When he hugged me again, I turned white. The memories of child stick with you. And I made sure not to call him a fat F.
For sure.
But I was tempted.
Learn that lesson, right?
I didn't know I was a kid. I had Aunt Fanny prompted.
Yeah, blame it on Aunt Fanny.
I had to sit there. Now, my daughter, I call her Daddy, my first child, because I would say daddy, 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 daddy before, because when I was putting it to bed, because I wanted her first words to be daddy. Aunt Fanny was going, F.
Good old Aunt
Fanny.
Fanny.
She programmed me. She got me in this. She was that way. What you do to let this go? He says,
so Johnny Carson was messing with somebody's wife? Is that what you're saying? At a restaurant?
He was being Johnny Carson drunk.
Okay.
Like one with Raquel Welch.
Yeah.
He was provocative in his ways of talking. He was very funny, but just not to this guy's thing. He was, breaking the chops. He was well endowed, he was Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Had I not, I might have got a laugh out of it, but I didn't because it's a woman, and that's not the way we were.
Right.
You do what you want on your show. I'm sitting here, I don't want this here. I mean, and it goes back to when Raquel Welch was there. She had this white outfit, this beautiful white-haired girl. A cat. She tells Johnny Carson, "You want to pet my pussy?" He says, "Sure, move the cat." I mean, that was Johnny Carson. I mean, he could get away with it on the Tonight Show, but not with this guy and his girl.
Right.
Yeah, those people wore their morals on their sleeve. I mean, there was none of that. So I guess he wanted her to move the cat, and and he was pretty. Being drunk out of his mind, he didn't care who was going. I mean, she tried to warn him 100 times. She moved, he came, and he was just being Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Now, could have been an act, could it be? I like Johnny Carson. We loved Ed McMahon. He became like part of the family. He was there every Sunday for meatballs. Man, we used to make the best meatballs. She'd fry them, and people couldn't wait to have them. So the deal was, and how he calmed it down, he said, this guy's going to help us by Channel 4 News is going to show what they're doing to Italians, so... And we're not animals. You want to hurt this guy? Look how they're helping us. He calmed down. He said, but he can't come to New York. So I don't want to see him. So anyway, they wanted to move the show to California, and I think Johnny wanted to go. And everything was fine, and my farmers promised him. And the guy was there with Ed McMahon. He gave his word. He would never bother Johnny. And Johnny apologized to NBC and whatever, and everybody lived happily ever after. And they started, that's how the league grew. They filmed us, and they put it on the news, and that's how my father did things. He was an alchemist like I am.
Wow. Okay.
That's a crazy
for the greater
story.
good.
So that
that's
was
a crazy story.
That was his way of getting in to show people that Italian Americans aren't what's being portrayed and what's everyone's being shown. This is what people are, Italians actually are. They're good people. They're family people.
Yes. And like maybe you overreacted with my son. You overreacted Johnny Carson a little because you're going through an angry time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Got it.
Let's all behave ourselves and act like gentlemen.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Other questions or anything I can do? I would like to say, honestly, the cigar is very good.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
I had to stop smoking it because I was inhaling it. I liked it so much.
We don't want you to do that. But we're glad you enjoyed it.
It's that good.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And we really, really can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. To be continued, yes. And I
we'd love to be a part two.
The one thing I wanted to mention again was going back to my analogy of the blue and the green lens, and what I was getting at was how you see life and how you always look for the good in people, and I think that's something that's very admirable and is kind of lost nowadays, is where the way that you think. And you had talked about how it's all about the way that you change your mind, right? If you choose to see the good in the world, then that's what you're going to see. If you choose to see the negative,
accurately depicted, not by prejudice or bias,
right? If you just choose the lens that you want to look through, if you choose to see the world to be the good place, then you'll see it good in the people.
It's a scale,
And I really do admire the fact that you do that you choose to see the good in people.
I'll give you an example. I wanted to be a priest. I come home and tell my mother. My mother was very, very smart, extremely. And she had a way of taking your pain away. She said, I think I'm going to be a priest. You can't get married. I said, I'll get around that. God, priests were allowed to get married, have kids till the 15th century. One died, left his money. It's about greed. I said, I know priests that we'll get around that. I don't think God will be mad at me for that. She says, all right. She was smart, my mother. She says, well, you got to pray to God to forgive people's sins as part of your job. She says, yeah, that's no big deal. I said, well, what do you do when a guy comes in and tells you a pedophile or a rapist? I said, snap his neck. She says, I think you should look for another profession. You're not getting along with your co-workers so well.
And that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair statement. Mother knew what you want. That's great.
Look at, I believe in God just significantly, and I believe in Catholicism significantly. But the business part of it, I don't. And to not allow priests to get married is attracting that element.
Sure.
Which doesn't make sense because marriage is a sacred bond between a man and a woman before God.
It's all dollars.
So
Priests were allowed to get married to the 15th or 17th century. They changed it.
So if you're a priest and
First priest that died left his money to his wife, the Pope got mad.
Yeah, and so to tell somebody that they're practicing, Catholicism, they're practicing Christianity, and one of the things in Christianity is a sacred bond of marriage, and you're saying, this is what you're practicing, but you can't get married? Like, that kind of goes against...
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
And why I say I'm a dope and experiences at dear school and only a mere fool may learn from it. When I tried and helped, I did the best I could to raise my brother's children, the best I could interim. I think I did a good job. But some of them became lawyers and professors, but they wouldn't have been if he's home, because I had a different outlook to it. That's a story for another day. But I never understood my parents were really children until I had my own. And I think if they let priests get married and nuns, it would be so much more fulfilling, and that would put the church and the family unit back together, because you're calling them father, sister, brother. And now if they can understand you, I think that would be one of the steps that the Catholic Church should revolutionize to do.
It's a great
but
point.
I think we got a great Pope,
Makes
and
sense.
we got a good cardinals, and I say maybe they should use the Jewish term and have some chutzpah.
There you go. That's a great point. That's a great point. It is.
And I think that's one of the things that the church dropped the ball with.
We do appreciate your time. We had a wonderful conversation getting to know you, and we appreciate all the stories. You're a great storyteller. You're a great guy.
If we end up actually doing this together,
my goods are good, but my bads are bad. I work on them.
Yeah,
that's everybody.
Everybody's
That's everybody.
got
Yeah, I'd love to actually do part 2 in person.
We will do part 2, but we're not too far from each other. We're in New York. I'm down in Long Island. He's in Eastchester, and you're up in.
I like Eastchester.
Yeah,
I like Eastchester. The fish market with the sailboat next to it was one of my favorite restaurants.
Oh yeah, all right, for sure.
I loved it. I used to go there all the time.
Oh, that's
and you're where?
I'm in Long Island. I'm in Huntington. I'm on the North
I like
Shore.
Huntington.
Yeah.
My father was involved in the Huntington Townhouse in Leonard's a Great Neck.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm right over by the. I'm more of on South Huntington, but that's my.
My partner's from Long Island.
Okay, where about?
I give it. Where's Robbie from? He stayed in the Cabbage House. What part of Long Island? That'll be for part 2.
Okay.
That'll be part 2.
Long Island, nice people.
Yeah, because if we can do it again in person,
Cops over there hate bookmakers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know.
They came to Orange County to get me.
Crazy. But
yeah, we'll do part 2 in person. I think that'll be the plan.
It'll be it'll be a lot more chemistry, even though we have a lot of chemistry right now.
Great.
But again, Chris, thank you so much for coming on here, giving us 2 hours of your time. We really appreciate
Pleasure
it.
and the honor is mine.
Appreciate it.
Invited me to your home, and I wanted to be as hospitable in your home as I could be, and your social graces were terrific. As interviewers, I hail you, and a good cigar and good conversation could help the future.
That's it.
That's what it's all about.
Meditation.
That's why we started this show.
That's
for exactly that.
Bringing people together. So
we
go ahead.
So we again appreciate your time here. This is kind of the moment.
Cut it off. Go.
No, this is the moment where we like to give the red carpet to you to kind of plug away and let people know where they can find you, where talk about your podcast, talk about anything that you want people to perhaps subscribe to or whatever it is. The floor is kind of yours.
One of the things is I was not very acceptable on the compound. I don't have social media. I don't blow my own horn. I'm not looking for anything. It's something I feel I could give back, and I'm going to try and do that the best I can. I thank the red carpet, but I'd rather put people on it than walk on it. Usually the superstars. I'm trying to help. I have a podcast called Taking Action with Chris Colombo. It's morphed into other areas, and I do the best I can,
Amazing.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
That's
I have
awesome.
young children, and I want to make the world better for them.
That's what it's all
God
about.
bless.
That's
God
what it's
bless.
about. So everybody, you have to check out Taking Action with Chris Colombo. I wrote it down. I'm certainly going to subscribe to it and listen to it. But
we're already subscribed to.
We're already subscribed
on YouTube,
so,
on the Burn Down
But
channel.
if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed watching, if you enjoyed listening to all the stories, I mean, Chris is a wonderful guy. Please like, subscribe, and do all the things. But Chris, thank you very much again for joining us here on the Burn Down. That's going to do it for us, and Eric's going to send it off with our signature cheers, our signature toast.
So we have it on a shirt now. This is our permanent send-off. We like to say cheers, chin chin, and salute. Thank you so much, Chris.
Just don't say Jindan. It means 100 years. I said it to a guy that was 99. He punched me into the face.
Well, I mean, chin chin. I used to say Chindani, and then people started saying, say chin chin. It's a little bit better.
I said it to a guy 99. He really got pissed.
It's like, you motherfucker, you.
I stopped saying it. I say salute now.
There.
Or I'm going to ask for their license.
Well, that's why we got 3 options. You can say all 3. You can say just one of them.
Exactly.
No problem.
So,
but Chris, thank you again. We really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch again, and we'll.
I'm a big fan of Burning Down right now. I got to tell you.
Thank you very much. So,
and I'm going to send for cigars. I don't want them for free. I'll purchase them. I don't do that. And I will enjoy the cigars, and I will pass them on to my poker game.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
See if Jimmy wants to take them, and we'll see if he can. It's really a good cigar.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well,
I would smoke it, but I talk too much.
It's not always the worst thing.
Well, Chris, this is
way to shut me up.
This has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait for part 2. We wish you all the best, and thank you again, and God bless.
Positive energy.
Positive energy. That's what it's all about.
Amen.
Holy Spirit.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Chris. Thank you very much.